I want to thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. As most of you will see, and we have a lot of folks on the call that I assume are interested in learning more about franchise opportunities, and more so, education on how to pick the right franchise. Obviously, as you can see, the title of our webinar this afternoon is What Am I Waiting For? And, you know, the reality is all of you at one point or another had interest in owning a franchise or exploring a franchise opportunity with one of the brands that invited you to it. And now it's like, well, what is now the right timing? Is this the year I'm actually going to make the move? Am I ready to add something else to my portfolio? What does it mean? So we're going to go through 10 questions to hopefully help you gain a better understanding of timing and brand and picking the brand and location and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the goal of today. But before we get started, I want to make a few just introductions. We're joined today by myself. I'm Nick Powles. I'm the Chief Brand Strategist at No Limit Media Consulting. We're a PR agency that works with franchise brands, as well as SMB Franchise Advisors, CEO and founder Steve Biegelman, and Franchise Works, Terry Corkery. The three of us are going to be kind of the experts from a tactical standpoint and give kind of umbrella themes on top of our topics. Joined by three very, very smart restaurant executives from Quiznos, Sean Fitzgerald, from Peter Riggs, and from Banistros, Mauricio Acevedo. And both of them are going to take some of the discussion into their own hands as we kind of lead them through it. First things first, I'm Nick Powles. As an agency, we've worked with probably about 5,000 franchisees over a few years, and the whole idea of why we do what we do is to help franchisees garner media coverage in their local markets. So I'm going to provide some insight from some of my experiences. I don't own a franchise. I'm not a franchisee with any brands, but I really focus on absorbing as much information as possible that exists out there. So hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit. We're also joined by Steve Biegelman. Steve, do you want to give a quick introduction to your company too?
Thanks. My name is Steve Biegelman. I'm the CEO and founder of SMB Franchise Advisors. We're a franchise consulting firm that helps new franchise companies expand into the world of franchising, as well as existing franchise systems put better systems and processes in place to continue to grow their brand. I've been a senior executive for various franchisors in my 25-plus year history in franchising. I was senior executive for an Italian ice chain out of Philadelphia called Rita's Water Ice. I have a chain called Salad Works, and also was the former CEO of a chain of tanning salons called Hollywood Tan. So I have background as an executive in the franchise industry. I've started my own concept in the food delivery industry in the 90s that I franchised as well, that led to the sale to a company called Cow Taxi. And then 3 years ago, started my own franchise consulting firm, which is what we do today. So thanks, Nick.
You know, you guys can all look at Steve's picture and wonder, how does he have 25 years of experience in franchising? Steve, how old were you when you got into franchising?
16 when I started.
Very young. On Terry Corkery from Franchise Works. Terry, you got a wealth of knowledge too. Do you want to just give a little bit of a backdrop on Franchise Works?
Thanks, Nick. What we are, Franchise Works, we have been in business in this area since 1999. We're an online resource for people that are looking to get information on companies buying a franchise, news, information. What we do is match up people with, that are looking at franchise, obviously, with the companies that are listed on our site.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What I was going to say, what you guys will learn from Terry as we go is that there's a ton of clutter online, and sites that like Terry's at franchiseworks.com can certainly be a guide to help you kind of navigate this cluttered segment of franchise opportunities.
That's correct.
So before we get started into our panelists and let them make their introductions, just some housekeeping points. One, when you all registered, it should have linked you to the Facebook fan page. The idea here, and we have a very nice growing network of folks, is that you guys can connect with us on there. You can click the Speakers tab and connect with everyone through LinkedIn or through email. Obviously, we have some franchise brands on here and some franchise executives from a coaching standpoint. But the real reality of a webinar like this is we want you to network and connect. And one of the powers of connections is obviously through Facebook as well as LinkedIn, where you can go on there and connect with us personally. And going back to where you guys stand in your franchise process, it's nice to have a few shoulders to lean on when it comes to navigating really what you want to do. So my email address will pop up on the screen. Here, for example, we'll show you where the email address will pop up. This is Tom King from Right at Home. So you'll see email address on the bottom, and then at the end of our presentation, I'm going to leave up the email addresses for everyone just so that you can connect outside of this webinar. Because, again, connections are so vital to help you navigate through so many different franchise opportunities. I'm trying to take topics that have somewhat of a broad scope so that we can be educational. So definitely be on the lookout for the next round of webinars. We are going to do one on March 1st. We're going to do one at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., service brands in the morning and restaurant concepts in the afternoon. I have some very, very, very good brands joining us then as well. And it's not necessarily about the brands that join. It's more so about the information that you can get out of it. So if you're connected on Facebook, that will connect you, or you can shoot me an email and say, keep me posted on stuff, or you'll get it naturally through our mailing list. And then lastly, the Q&As, use the fan page to post questions, and we'll make sure that you get them answered. If you post them on the fan page, one of the nice things about that is that there's other franchisees and other prospective franchisees who are in this network. So you can ask questions and say some of the struggles and the challenges that you're going through as you run through this process. Talk about it on there, because if you have a place to talk about it openly and honestly, you might actually get some more value out of it. Before we get started, I want to introduce some of our other speakers. Sean, are you on the phone today? Joining us shortly. He said that he was just getting out of a meeting, so he'll be with us in a minute. Mauricio, are you with us? All right. Yeah. Why don't you talk to everyone and give a little bit of background on Stroh's and yourself?
Sure. I'll be happy to. Thanks for having us here today. By the way, Banastros is a franchise concept that basically focuses on a short menu of crepes, French crepes, coffees, and smoothies. We do everything in front of our customers for a great show. We have the ability to operate both in kiosks, in lines, or in standalone stores. So we're very flexible in that way. And the idea today is to share anything and everything that we can with all of you in terms of the questions that you might have about getting into franchising.
Great. Mauricio, talk a little bit about the growth of Banastros, because I want you to touch on that, because it's been kind of cool to see really go from concept to established brand.
We started franchising Banastros in about 2.5 years ago, although the concept has been operating since 2003. For the first 5-6 years, we made sure we ironed out all the kinks and made sure what worked and what didn't work. In that short period of time, we've gone from units to 8 units open today, 14 on development here in the U.S. It's a franchise agreement in Colombia, South America for 15 units, and one in England in the UK for 80 units. So we're very excited about the growth that we've had.
Great, and I think you're going to provide some excellent perspective on here. Also, a staple of our webinars, Peter Riggs joins us today as well, and Pete has actually co-facilitated many of these webinars with me and comes from a wealth of information, including the fact that he was a franchisee prior to becoming a franchisor. So, Pete, can you give a little bit of background on yourself, too?
Yeah, like many people on the call today, I actually first started with Pita Pit as a customer, just enjoying the food, and eventually decided that it was a good idea for me to get involved with them as a franchisee and parlay into now becoming the franchisor. So I've been on all three sides of the table, and it's given me unique of reference for the franchise world in general. And we have over 30 units all across North America and new stores coming in nationally too, in New Zealand and Brazil and all over the place. So we're experiencing some good growth, and we're excited to be on the call today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Pete. So I want to go ahead and get right into it and get some of the discussion started. Until Sean is able to join us, I will go back and forth to some of our other panelists on some of the questions, as well as provide some insight. So the first question is, how do I know that I'm ready to become a franchisee? So, Pete, why don't you go ahead and take the start of that? How did you know that you were ready to become a franchisee way back when you were looking at Pita Pit?
Yeah, I was looking around at some different career opportunities, and I said I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't necessarily want to go through all the trials and tribulations of trying to come up with something on my own and really start it from scratch. And that's one of the great things about being a franchisee is you have the opportunity to be your own boss, have your own business, but you don't have to do it truly by yourself, which is a major benefit. So, especially, when you're just getting started, there's a lot of things that you just don't know because you've never done it before. And that's why, getting into a franchise for me was ultra appealing because it just gave me the opportunity to know that I'd be doing something I enjoyed doing, but I would also have the support people had gone through and made a lot of the mistakes that I wouldn't have to make now.
Hey, Steve Began, let me ask you this question too, because I think you could provide some insight because you've worked with so many different franchisees as well. How did some of your franchisees know it was the right time, and what did they tell you as part of the sales process?
Well, people, Nick, just get to the point where they're, potentially tired of working in corporate America, they'll follow their own dream and get into a business. Really, as Pete mentioned, don't have to create everything from scratch. If a lot of people are interested in the restaurant business, a lot of times they've never been in the restaurant business before. They know how to create recipes, processes, formulas, systems for staffing, etc. And really that's what franchising provides. It provides that platform to do the business for yourself, but obviously not by yourself, which people all the time. So a lot of times, whether it was at SaladWorks or Rita's or any of the other franchise brands that I've been a part of, people came to the opportunity and get into their own business, wanting to follow that dream, to take out of corporate America. If it was the right time to invest in themselves, not knowing how to do that. And typically, they found a concept that they were really passionate about and decided that it made sense if it was the right fit with the franchisor.
Great. So, Pete, when you have franchisees coming to the table today, how are you helping them coach and be ready for the right moment? What maybe some of the elements that you're helping them prepare to make sure that they are going to be successful as a franchise owner?
The key things that we ask them is, what their background is, and I don't ask them what their background is from the standpoint of saying you need to have restaurant experience. I just ask them what their personal life experience is, so I can understand more about them, kind of why they're interested in the Pita Pit, why they're interested in going into business for themselves in general, and so that I can also understand whether or not I personally think that the Pita Pit's going to be a good fit for them, because a lot of people, when they are looking to do something new, to change and possibly become a franchisee of the Pita Pit, it's important that it's not only a good fit for us, but it's a good fit for them, and knowing whether or not it's something that they're going to be excited about, something that it's not just one of those situations where they're saying, well, I don't know, I'm bored of my other job, so I thought maybe I'd give this a try. We really want to be a part of this system. We really want them to be a part of our, and it's like, I know it's a little cliche to say family, but that's really the way we look at things around here. We have what will hopefully be a long-term relationship with our franchisees, so we want to make sure that everybody feels really good about the relationship from the moment they decide they're interested in us.
And if any of you have questions throughout this, I know we have actually a lot of attendees today. Feel free to use the chat function. You can always send me a message on there, and I will make sure that your question gets answered, whether it's on the question or not. So moving on, let's keep going through these. Number 2, obviously, what am I waiting for? What does exist for information on franchising? I'm with Pete and Terry on this one. Terry, do you want to take the start on that? Because we just touched on it, that there is so much clutter out there that exists. So if I need help figuring out where I go and what's the right investment level for me, what resources do I actually have?
Well, thanks. You know, it's today, especially compared to when I started in the franchising industry back in 87, 88, there's just so much more information available to you, obviously, via the Internet. Back then, you can only information that franchisors wanted to put out, and that's the information you read. But you can do a lot more research. There's a lot more avenues available to yourself, being that you can go on the Internet. You can go to portals like franchiseworks.com or sites, get information. Again, they aren't there to sell you something. They're there to get you information so you can make, somewhat educated decision to find you have an interest in. Again, there's also trade shows that are available out there that you're able to meet prospects, the franchisors face-to-face. There's seminars available at those trade shows. Again, Internet, there's brokers, consultants, if you will, that can go through a number of franchise companies with you to see what fits your needs and is a good match for you. So today, more than ever, there's just so much more information.
Hey, can you walk some of these trade shows? Because I'm sure some of the prospects on the call have gone to some of the franchise expos. What advice would you have for them, taking a lead on them? Because you walk into this room, you see, a few hundred franchisors sitting there, and you don't have a source for helping you really digest which brand would make most sense for you. But do you have any advice for helping them in a trade show setting or even online when you're trying to land on what's the right brand for you? Do you have any place you can evaluate that success?
Yeah, one of the things I'd say is on the trade show aspect is if there's a franchise in general or a few franchises that you think you might be interested in exploring further, all of those franchisors will be listed before the conference actually happens. So we're approaching the trade show. Feel free to reach out to those franchisors and say, my name's so-and-so, and I'd be interested in meeting with one of your development people at the upcoming trade show. Can we set aside some time to have a face-to-face meeting? That way, they'll be expecting you, and you know exactly what time you'll be able to go and meet with a specific member of the development team at one of the franchises that you're interested in exploring, so you can make sure that you don't have to just kind of randomly wander down the aisles until you find them and wait while a bunch of other people are speaking to them. So it's nice to be able to come in a little bit organized like that. And also, when you talk with different franchisors, as was said before, there are a lot of resources online. But something that's important to remember is the franchisor themselves should also be a valuable resource for you. If you're speaking with a franchisor, like I said, it's important that that franchisor and the franchisee are a good fit going forward. So if you're speaking to a franchisor and you have a lot of different questions just about franchising in general, the franchisor generally will be very helpful in answering those questions for you. And if they're not, then it's probably not a good fit for you. There are a lot of questions about franchising in general and also about specific brands like the Pita Pit, for example. But if any one of you on the call today were to call up my offices and ask some just general questions about franchising or why the Pita Pit might be a good franchise for you, or, just why franchising in general, we'd be happy to help answer those questions. It's one of the reasons we love working with Nick on these roundtable phone calls in the first place, because, the webinars are a great tool to allow people interested in the concept of franchising to learn more, so that in the end you're all making more informed decisions and therefore are making the right decision.
Hey, how do you kind of work through the clutter in your opinion? If you have a franchisee that's out there, what would you suggest to them on how they can kind of figure out what brand makes most sense for them?
I tell all the time that we want to do is find out what you're interested in. So if you're interested in a full-service restaurant, obviously, keep your focus towards types of brands. If you're interested in a coffee and tea type concept or morning concept with bagels, then obviously keep your focus there. But once you decide on an industry that you're interested in, certainly recommend you talk to emerging companies. Certainly recommend that you talk to the established brands. Do your homework, do your due diligence. Make sure you're really comfortable with the people you're going to be dealing with on a regular basis. Because, much like a marriage, is a franchise relationship. And, be in this relationship for a long period of time. You will be successful and potentially eventually get to multi-units. You don't do that if you obviously don't agree with the vision or the philosophy of the company and where the company is heading. So you want to really be passionate about it. Make sure you can do your due diligence. Get through all the clutter that's out there because there's so much of it. There's so many opportunities and so many choices in franchising. Make sure it's something you're really excited about, and obviously do your due diligence.
Hey, obviously on your site you can probably track what brands are getting the highest amount of leads, which also help you probably understand the industry, as in which are the hottest brands based on lead traffic. So flashback 10 years ago, and perhaps the donut side with Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' competing against each other with the hot brands, and today it's yogurt brands. How or what advice would you have for some of the prospects listening on hot brands and versus, I guess, more of a stable brand, and how do you avoid really not biting into something too early?
Well, I'd say this. I mean, the food industry has always been very stable as far as the franchising industry goes. When people think of franchising, they automatically think of restaurants and food. Whether right or wrong, that just is the way it is. And probably 40% of the visitors to our site probably going to look for a food type of franchise. That being said, with a trend, someone who's more stable, the yogurt has been up and down. I mean, back in the 80s, it was up there and it went down, and now it's the hot thing again, I guess, for a few years. I mean, the stable, brand of the industry is really, the food industry as far as your sandwich brands, your lunch brands, those type of things. Stay with a really able trend. That's a fad.
Yeah, that's probably some of the most critical advice anyone could ever give. I mean, I watch just one, some of the prospects at some of the franchise expos over the last few years. I let them go towards, that might not fit their portfolio, and they're just going there because really the crowd's telling them to. And I think it's important if a yogurt brand is what your passion is, then go for it. If a sandwich brand is what your passion is, go for it. If that's what your favors are, go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you lose passion for the business that you're trying to operate, you're gonna be struggling to get over the hump at certain points. And obviously, some of the more qualified franchise prospects are going to be smart and thinking about some of their strategy, and that could be diversifying the portfolio. That when some of those shifts happen, there is flexibility in making some of those decisions. Moving on to question number 3. We want this question with the service brands, and we got very opinion on it. Can I keep my job? I think from a operational standpoint, it depends if you're going to be the owner operator or if you're going to be an absentee. I've seen a lot of the franchisees that we've worked with have kept their day job, which definitely adds a little bit of the secondness to the story from a PR side. But I think it's good for you guys to touch on this opinion. So let's go to Mauricio. Mauricio, if someone wanted to own a Banastros but told you that they wanted to keep their day job as well, how would you feel about that?
It really depends, again, on the type of concept. At Banastros specifically, we have designed the concept, be very easy to operate, and there's systems in place that help you control it sort of at an arm's length. Eventually, all franchisors want to have owner-operators because, as you've all said, the passion behind the franchisee is what we're all looking for. There's ways to slow ramp it up, and in certain cases of franchisees that we've gotten, they have not quit their day jobs. And once the unit's up and solid and operating is when they make the transition. So it really depends on the concept. In Banastros specifically, it is something that we're able to do and transition, but not all concepts allow it.
How about you? Because you can probably talk to the absentee owner, especially if you're looking at concepts and saying, I want to be a multi-unit, multi-brand owner. You got to create a system. So your company is going to be bigger than just being the operator. But in a sense, can you open up a restaurant successfully or food concepts keeping a day job?
Well, Nick, you certainly can. There are plenty of people that do that. I have a friend who owns 5 restaurants in a restaurant concept, and his job is really just to oversee the management of the business. I can honestly tell you that he's never made a salad or a chicken sandwich in his life, but he manages the business, and he's got 5 units working with 6 now. So there are people that do that. And I know in Mauricio's concept at Banastros, they have a big organization that's a multi-unit franchisee in their system, and they must run thousands of different restaurant concepts. One of the fast feeders, the Turnpike in Florida, and obviously you're not getting an owner-operator in those cases. So what franchising traditionally has been is mom and pop, people that invest in a business and open their own business and they're hands-on. And while it's an ideal situation for most franchise concepts, it's not always because a lot of people want to keep their day job and operate that way. Income's still coming in until the business takes off, or they will look at it at a bigger scale where they want to be a multi-unit player and they're not looking to run the business day-to-day. So, I've certainly seen it successful on both ends. There's some franchisors that only want owner-operators, and that's okay as a strategy if that's one for your business.
Can you be wildly financially successful if you still have your job, you think, or do you have to go full force into operating a franchise brand?
Plenty of people that very, very successful careers that still are very successful multi-unit franchisees and systems. It doesn't work every concept, but it does work in some concepts. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it comes down to the pattern. Now, understand that if you keep your day job, you're going to be working pretty hard. You got your day job, and then you also still do own a business. But if you have right management and you invest the right amount of capital in the business, you certainly have a good chance of being successful as well.
Well, when you were at Rita's, because there is some seasonality to that, did you find more people in a brand like that keeping their day jobs because the business would be open longer? And kind of part of that question, did you see a lot of people coming into a brand like Rita's for the lifestyle that accompanied it?
I'll answer the second question first, Nick. At Rita's, and I was there for about 6 years, we built to about 400 units at the time. A lot of franchisees, I would say most of them, bought the business for the lifestyle. They love the product, but they all bought the business for the lifestyle. To work 8 months a year and have 4 months off or 5 months off, travel to be with their family was very attractive. If they want more money, they'd open a second store, work harder for those 8 months, but still get those 4 or 5 months off a year. So the lifestyle was very attractive in that business. To answer the second part, we certainly did have a combination of owner-operators was a big portion, but plenty of people who also kept their job. In this case, though, we wanted the franchise partner to prove to us that they had somebody able to operate the business. So we were very interested in who was going to operate the business if the owner wasn't. You look at the yogurt trend today with the yogurt concepts that are out there, and a lot of them are absentee because they're self-serve and require very few employees. Rita's, it was a little bit different. At the time, we were very interested in who's to manage this business because, again, it was very labor-intensive.
Well, yeah, there was an element of community with a brand like Rita's that you have to be somewhat well-known to get some of that word-of-mouth going. Let's keep it on. Question number 4, should I open multiple locations at once? And, I want to put this question in there because oftentimes when you're coming to the table, you're being asked, hey, you want to sign a multi-unit deal. Now, typically, those multi-unit deals are developed over time. It's not like you're going to pop open units overnight. We do have a client, pizza brand in Chicago, that the franchisee has opened up 4 locations in a matter of 2 months to try to build that brand awareness. I guess that case is different, but I'll start with you, Pete. Do you want to tell your opinion on it and whether or not you should be planning to scale that fast in the restaurant industry?
The reality is it depends mostly on your past experience. Maybe you have opened other franchise concepts, and you've done multiple units at one time, so you may have the infrastructure in place to do that. But the reality is if this is your first foray into franchising, then I wouldn't suggest opening multiple units at one time. Now, you can, with that said, set up a strategy with the franchisor to do, like you said, a multi-unit zone. We have a fairly aggressive growth strategy, but you want to make sure that you're leaving yourself some room for adjustments. Like I said, if you haven't done this in the past, if it's something that you're new to, franchising or multiple units, that's something that you want to take a little time. And everyone always wants to be wildly successful and get things going quickly, but there's always room for adjustments to be made on how you're running your business. So I'd suggest setting up a good plan with the franchisor. Talk to the franchisor and say, here's what my goals are. What do you guys feel is the best way to achieve them with your particular brand in the area that I'm looking?
Marie, how about you? I mean, with Big Rose, you have some flexibility of your units, which I would love for you to talk about, like kiosks to standalone to inline, to all the options that you have. I would love for you to touch on that. With you and so many flexible options, would you want franchisee to open up multiple locations at once, or how in the ideal world would you want your franchisees to be set up?
One of the greatest advantages of Banastros as a concept is that we don't have a kitchen, so we're really a restaurant without the whole kitchen. Everything happens in the griddle in front of the customers. That's what allows us that possibility of being really where the traffic is. I mean, wherever there's people, we're able to have a Banastros in there. So now the kiosk, as you said, but as inlines and standalone stores. And the way we approach it is really depending on the type of franchisee. We do have the flexibility of opening either 1, 3, or more than that. But what I want to stress, to complement what Pete was saying, is that the other thing that people need to take into account when opening multiple units is that the types of organization that you have to have multiple units, after a certain number of units, I would say 3, it's different than just owning it by yourself. I mean, you could pretty well, depend on the type of concept, operate 2 or 3 locations by yourself, but once you get over that hump, it really becomes more of a professional organization, and you really need to take that into account.
Steve found that one of the reasons why a multi-unit owner fails is because, well, I guess they grow quick and because they don't understand how to manage that transition that Mauricio was just talking about from going from 3 to 5.
That happened, Nick, but also one of the challenges is capital. Sometimes we see franchisees trying to expand too quick, and they leverage their capital too much, and they're capitalized, and then it affects, not only does it affect, store number 4 or 5, but it actually then impacts store 1, 2, and 3. Certainly from a financial standpoint, also from a management standpoint, going from 1 to 2 is extremely challenging. It's actually easier to go from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 because you have systems and processes in place. When you're an owner-operator and you're very hands-on in the restaurant business, go from 1 unit to 2 units, it's challenging because, again, you can't put yourself in 2 places at the same time. So be able to, use management and have good systems and processes in place, and I'm sure Pete and Mauricio will tell you this, that talk to your franchisor because they have systems and processes in place that they utilize for operators. I mean, I'm sure Pete at Pita Pit with hundreds of units has got a tremendous amount of multi-unit franchisees. So it can certainly guide you to other, multi-unit franchisees in the system who've been there and have gone from that 1 to 2 or to 4 or even 6 to 7 unit to grow their business.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add on this topic before we move on?
Well, to say quickly, yeah, he's absolutely right. We've actually turned down franchisees that weren't ready for it, because it's tough to explain sometimes to people that there is an inherent difficulty that is kind of more than what they would anticipate going from 1 location to 2 locations or more, and especially if they try to do it too quickly without the proper infrastructure in place, we'll warn them against it and also say, we think you're ready yet. We want to keep working with you, and let's work together and establish this 1 location so that it's running smoothly enough that you can easily step into 2 or 3 or 4 locations without it causing damage to your other already operating units.
Yep, that's great. Okay, let's keep marching through. Number 5. How do I find the right brand for me? So, Terry, actually, let's have you take the first swing at this because franchiseworks.com, and you have many franchisors who are providing educational information on your site. So when you look there, how do I figure out what is the right brand for me? What elements would you say are critical to determining that?
Well, I guess there's a few of them. I guess first and foremost, I think as a person looking to go in business, they have to have made a decision that they want to start their own franchise or they want to be in their own business, because without that, you're just kind of, you're kind of wasting everyone's time, including yourself. So once you've made a decision that I want to start my own business or I want to get in my own business, you have to narrow down, basically, what financial requirements do I have? What meets my financial needs? Meets my lifestyle needs? What can I see myself doing over the next X amount of years? And do I have a passion for that type of a business? From that standpoint, I think they're somewhat critical as far as starting the business and finding the right brand. And also, there's a lot of information. You have to meet with the franchisors. Again, they have to approve you, just like you're looking to buy a franchise. They all want to make sure you're a good fit with their brand. So, from a standpoint, from there, really, it's a matter of narrowing down. Can I afford it? Does it meet my lifestyle? And do I have a passion? That type of a business.
Yep, that's great. So, again, this topic is how I find the right brand for me. Mauricio, do you want to talk about that? And the reason I want to go to you is because you absolutely have a wealth of experience, not just in franchising, but in business in general. And maybe talk about why you picked Banistros too when you decided to help develop it, because I think that might provide some good insight to some of those folks who are listening.
Yeah, we've touched here and there on most of the important steps. Pete alluded to it as well as Steve. If I would have to number 1 to 4, I would say first of all, what is that you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you really want to be in business by yourself with all the risks and perils that's involved? And if so, what type of business do you want? Second, and that's where I come in with the Banistros concept in specifically, do you believe in the product. I mean, it's not only knowing what you want to do, is once you find it, will you be able to stand behind that product? Is that something that you perceive as an opportunity, an untapped market, a niche that nobody else has seen, something you can help grow and create? And if so, get behind it. Third, you have passion for it. And if you really answer number two with yes, I believe in the product, passion is one of the most important things that we look for in Banastros for our franchisees. I mean, are people going to be as passionate as we are about our concept? Fourth, as Pete has said, I mean, this is a long-term relationship. So, get in line with the people who own the concept, the people behind the brand. I mean, get to know them, see if their values are the same as yours, and you're going in the same direction, because you're going to be with these people, hopefully for a very long time.
And this is probably a loaded question to some extent, but can you get rich quick in any part of franchising?
There's no rich quick scheme in any franchise business, restaurant, non-restaurant. It's hard work just like anything else. Are certain franchisees that become more successful quicker? Absolutely. Certain franchisees in certain locations that take longer and sometimes don't make money or lose money? Absolutely. So, a lot of it comes down to you as a franchise partner. I mean, how are you going to work? How committed are you to the business? Being the right location, following the system of the franchisor. Franchisees who just go and create their own, process and system and don't listen to the franchisor at all tend to, have more challenges. But there's no secret bullet, unfortunately, that everybody can just get that makes it simple.
Yeah, I would imagine, and I've never owned a restaurant, so this is obviously coming from an outsider, but if I were in a career and I was looking to own a business, naturally I would probably pick restaurants based on the fact that they're a part of my everyday life. And I would probably look for the concept that's going to make me more money than I'm making at my current job. The reality is, and Pete, you can speak to this after I make this comment, but as a single unit owner, it's going to be tough to make significant capital off of one, which is where we keep going back to this multi-unit idea of as you scale your business and you have consistent unit level economics and you're taking home consistent dollars and you're able to share resources, then you get to a point, so you're following a good model of making some decent money. But when you're starting off, you're going to look at replacing your job and probably even taking a little of a cut from the get-go on your investment. It's not like you're going to make that money back. When you were going into Pita Pit as a franchisee, I mean, what was your aspiration? I mean, what were you thinking? Were you thinking this is going to be going to get rich? What were you thinking? I got to figure out a way to scale this. What was kind of going through your mind?
Well, the hope is to eventually get rich. I think that's what most people are looking for. They'd like that, but more importantly, it's getting rich doing something you want to do and something you enjoy doing. So that is actually the first most important consideration. And it's one of those things where the big you'll have in trying to run any business, whether it's a franchise or not, is if you think you can just kick open the doors and come back every now and then just to pick all the money that's been flowing through the doors, well, then that business is going to fail. It doesn't matter whether it's a Pita Pit or the most successful franchise on the planet. If you're not there working it or have a system in place to work it, it's going to fail. There is no doubt about that. You can't just open a business and have it be something that just generates capital for you, especially immediately. So when I was looking at Pita Pit originally, I wanted to do something that I felt would obviously make money, but something that I wanted to work at, because it's an important consideration. If it's not something that you want to do your life, if it's not something that you want to be a part of every day, then you shouldn't do it, because that's the reality. If you're your own boss, if you own your own business, even if you're not at your establishment, you're thinking about it. And it's important to always have those considerations in mind, and that's why it's important to make sure that no matter what business you partner with, it's got to be something that you really enjoy doing.
And you said something there, and it struck kind of a chord with me. I was talking with a client this past weekend at the International Franchise Association's annual convention. And they said they have a franchisee who doesn't want to be $1 million franchisee. Their wealth comes in the fact that they're able to spend some more time with their family, and frankly don't have a boss that's telling them what to do every day. So obviously wealth comes in different shapes and forms. But again, of me personally, if I'm looking at purchasing a restaurant concept, I have to be thinking about how do I get to unit number 2 and 3. Understanding that if I can pull X out of each location, now I have a business that could provide for family in a significant way. Move on to question number 6. Is it okay to go with a concept instead of a brand? I love asking this question because I think it gives 2 different perspectives, and we have established franchisor and more of an emerging franchisor on today's call. So, Mauricio, let's start with you. Concept versus established. And why would you personally pick a concept?
It really depends on the type of person you are. I mean, some people like to lead, like to create, like to do. Other people like, the more quote-unquote stability of something that has already been done. It really depends. I mean, some people like the idea of getting on the ground floor with something that nobody else is doing, that there's more opportunity for growth, less competition for retail spaces. And others, don't want to deal with that part of creating something and want to rest more on the fact that it's been done. Although you really have to be careful there, because it's important to understand that it's a combination of 3 things that will make you successful in franchising. First of all is the concept, where you have that concept or the location. And third, how much work you put in it. So it matters if it's a concept or an established brand. If you locate that business in a location that's not good, it's not going to do good. Or if you have the best location possible with the best concept possible and you don't do the work, it's not going to get done either. So it depends on, as I said, on the type of person that you are and whether you want to be part of creating something or relax more in the fact that it's already down the line.
Yeah, and let's just run over to Pete real quick and watch the opposite side of being an established brand. What are the benefits of an established brand as opposed to a concept?
Well, some of the benefits of the established brand are kind of fairly straightforward. There are more people that are aware of your concept. You can open in more diverse locations. You can open one in all over the country, and there's a greater likelihood that people will already be familiar with your brand and therefore ready to come and start purchasing your product as soon as you open the door. And there's also, with an established brand, you've been doing it for a longer period of time, and so there's a higher likelihood that they've experienced more of the trials and tribulations that they can help you avoid. You don't have to experience any of those pitfalls as you open your door.
Mm-hmm. Steve, do you want to just, as an umbrella, talk about, just quickly, the difference between a concept and an established brand?
Well, there's people out there that are looking for, as Mauricio and Pete both said, stability. Concept's been proven in the marketplace, maybe an industry leader. And that's fine. And there are people who are looking for those types of franchises and understand that typically you will a little bit more in upfront fees to go with those types of brands, and sometimes they may not have the same territories left available or the territories they live. Benefit to going with an emerging brand is you get opportunity to have an impact on the organization. You you typically get a chance to work with the founders of the business. You typically get an opportunity to impact some of the product lines that are offered in the concept. Again, so it really depends what you're looking for. There are people that want that stability and to know that the brand is absolutely proven. I get a chance to call 20, 30, 40 different franchisees to validate the concept, and people that want to go with an emerging brand because they want to have direct contact with the founders of the business and impact on the direction of the company and the product line that's all offered. They have to find out what's right for you.
Well, and I'm sure, a lot of it could have to do with location. I went to McDonald's and said I want to own a McDonald's in any market. They would say, you're crazy, you're not getting in it. But if I went to like an emerging Better Burger concept that didn't have a location there, I'm probably going to be able to get good real estate for that. So it's probably dependent, too, on the landscape of the brand, whether you can get into more of an emerging brand or an established one. So, question number 8, how did I perform my due diligence? And actually, let's go back to Terry on that one. And Terry, on our last webinar, on the 11 a.m. one, kind of made a point about this, that really there's so much clutter out there. And the Internet has really changed the game of due diligence. You can now, as a prospect, find any bit of information you could ever want on a brand, good and bad. 2, it's almost as a tour guide once you get into the first steps. But past that clutter and doing your due diligence is probably a critical part of deciding what brand makes sense for you. So do you want to speak to that area a little bit? How should I perform my due diligence, especially in the way that technology has shifted?
Okay. Well, yeah. There's 2 ways of that, I guess. Obviously, and you're going onto a site like ours, or you're going to a trade show, you're getting information, or you're filling out a form. But I think once I've narrowed it down, the due diligence that I think is really important is, meet with the franchisor. They're going to be your best resource of information. That they're going to, give you an idea of what their business is about, get a view of the day-to-day operations, what they're expecting of you. And again, once you've narrowed down to the brands, obviously, is what I'm talking about. A franchisor, who meets the same criteria as me, who has similar backgrounds. Talk to those type of people. Talk to people who have the same type of goals as you. As far as when I say talk to people, talk to franchisees. You may talk to a franchisee whose goals may not be as high as yours, and therefore they're satisfied reaching where you want to get to Y. So I think the key is meeting with the franchisor and speaking with the franchisees. That's really the due diligence I do, because that would validate everything that you're looking for.
How brands? We just talked about concepts versus established brands, but how are franchise prospects performing the due diligence on you? Do you have any idea of what steps they're taking to decide whether or not they're ready to fill out an application for Banistros?
Most prospects today, as Terry has said, are doing their due diligence on the Internet. Once a prospect actually reaches out to you and asks for information, he already did part of the due diligence. Are there any stories on the concept out there? What are those stories saying? Do they have any social networking presence? They're doing most of their due diligence first and foremost on the Internet. Once they come in and they meet you, it's where the part of talking to other franchisees comes about, and it becomes important. But first and foremost, people are finding everything online.
That's great. Okay, number 9. How much financial strength must I come to the table with? I want to talk about that because obviously with a Pita Pit, you're carrying somewhat of an investment in the build and startup expenses. But how much would you want a franchisee to come to the table with above and beyond what the build-out costs are?
Well, there's a lot of different philosophies behind this, and we're constantly looking at our financial requirements. But the reality is, we don't want anybody to look at what we publish as potential financial suggestions and say, oh, well, I don't have those exact amounts, so I'm not even going to contact them. What we encourage people to do, no matter whether it's a Pita Pit or a Banistros or anybody, if you're interested interested, even if you don't have necessarily the quote unquote financial requirements right now, get in touch with them anyway and let them know. And because we want to work with people regardless of whether or not they meet our theoretical financial requirements. We will talk to you about kind of what you do have, because there may be other options that you don't think you have are actually available to you. You know, there's a lot of programs for getting loans with 401ks and IRAs and things like that. A lot of people interested in franchising might not be aware of. So, you know, it's a dangerous area to say these are the financial requirements and it's just black and white, because the reality is, if you're in touch with a franchisor, there's like I said earlier in this phone call, a good franchisor will be willing to help you out and answer the questions that you have, regardless of whether or not they're specific to their brand. If you have questions about financing, about what it takes to get involved in a franchise, call up the brand that you're interested in working with and say, you know, here's my financial situation. Is this something that's realistic for me? Because the bottom line is, and one of the reasons why, again, you know, Peter likes participating in these roundtable calls is, you know, we want everybody to be successful, whether they open a pita pit or not. You know, because more people are successful in other areas, they're still going to eat at the pita pit, even if they're not a pita pit franchisee. So, you know, maybe we have a conversation about financing, and maybe your financial situation isn't right to open a pita pit, but it may be perfect for a different concept. And so it's just doing more due diligence and getting franchisors to help you really understand your financial situation is, I think, more important than looking at the quote-unquote financial requirements of any given franchisor.
Thanks, Pete. And lastly, if the big city location is sold out, should I give up? And we just kind of talked about it, that real estate options could influence what direction you go in and what brand you fill. For instance, I live in Chicago. If I wanted to open up a franchise, I would pick Chicago, and if they told me they were sold out, I would not relocate. But we go to Terry first. Terry, if the big city sold out, do I just give up, or advice for how I might find a brand that makes more sense for me?
Well, Nick, I think probably the three of these guys can attest to it, that the big city isn't always, you know, if it's not available, you know, you look at the towns and so forth, they're not typically in big cities. I mean, obviously there are colleges in big cities, but they're colleges that are in, you know, in the middle of the state. They're not necessarily what they call big cities, that do extremely well in the food industry, specifically, because all those kids are out there, they're going to eat, so they thrive real well. So no, the answer is, if the big city quote-unquote location is not available, absolutely don't give up, because there's tremendous opportunities out there in areas like that.
If you even open up a franchise today and you wanted to open up in Philly and they told you it was sold out, how would you feel about going out to some of the smaller surrounding markets in Philly?
Well, it depends on the concept. So, you know, if I was just so excited about the concept and passionate about the brand, you know, there's probably a certain distance that I'd be comfortable with going to explore options and territories. But just like you said, Nick, about Chicago, if I told you that you had to go to Texas to be part of this burger chain or this, you know, coffee concept, you probably wouldn't go, and you'd start to look at other concepts. And what we would encourage you to do at that point would be to go look at, you know, potential other companies in the same industry. If you're very excited about coffee or you're very excited about the burger industry, there's lots of other opportunities out there with some of these emerging brands to be able, if your prime territory is sold out.
Great. So obviously we're hitting our hour mark, and I know all of you have to get on to your busy lives. I want to quickly wrap up. On the screen, you'll see email addresses and contact information for those who were speaking. Sean ended up getting tied up in a meeting and apologized with a text message that he was unable to attend today. You can certainly contact him outside of this webinar. I'll get to that screen in a second. But as you guys are deciding what move you make next and what brand makes most sense for you. Was kind of an overview to hopefully give you guys some tidbits and some ideas to make your guys' process stronger. But, decide what you want to do and stay committed to the process. Figure out from top down what brand or what concept or what industry makes most sense for you, whether that's a pet care or home care or restaurant. Think about that from the get-go. And then if I'm you, I would do a competitive analysis on the brands that are in that field, especially the ones that originally pop out. You might want to find some sleepers and put them into those categories. Critically, and this came back to the research and the due diligence part, but talk to franchisees and the systems, and definitely lean on the franchisors. I mean, you got several here that could, if you're interested in a Pita Pit or a Banistros or a Quiznos, talk with the franchisor and ask them to help you connect the right franchisees that might match what you're looking for in your homework. When you're doing your homework, definitely do it before you're making a decision, and that could even be before you fill out an application. If you're on FranchiseWorks.com and you find a franchise that seems intriguing to you, go off and do some homework on it, and then come back to FranchiseWorks.com and fill out that application. Okay, when you're filling it out, you're ready to go, because frankly, on the reverse side, when a franchisor is getting your application, they get really excited because what they want to do is they want to vet you out and vice versa. They want to do it immediately because you raised your hand, you said you were interested in franchising. Now they want to know how far you are along in the process and where you stand. So doing some of that homework beforehand will make you better prepared. When that franchisor calls you, you're going to be able to have better questions for them. It might help lead you down the process. We touched on multi-unit development today, as in, you want to have more financial wealth. Maybe that's the direction you go. But really an exit plan. Everyone in business and strategy has an exit strategy. What is the end goal here? Lay that out before you go into franchising or owning any business for that matter. If your vision is really limited to the next day, you're probably not going to get that far. So think big and go back to that game plan and make sure that you're creating something that you can really hopefully achieve and push yourself to get to. Again, with questions or comments or concerns or ideas, the way that we've structured this panel is that you really have a good group of people here. Every single person on this panel I would consider a close personal friend. And I say that because you have a bunch of folks who are here to help you. No one wants you to go into a brand that wouldn't be the right fit for you. In franchising, you have a lot of folks who will just sell, and you come to the table with your money and say, I want this. They're going to say, okay, let's see if we can get you into the system. Not necessarily the right way to do franchising. It's got to help you be educated on what brand makes most sense for you. So again, I say that personal close friends of mine on this call because their email addresses are on the screen, so you can connect with them and ask them any questions. I'm sure each and every one of them will be happy to help you. Lastly, like I said before, the beauty of due diligence, shift in technology, is social media allows us to connect on a deeper personal basis through the power of the Internet. So go find us on Facebook or LinkedIn. Connect with us on either of those sites, and that will probably be beneficial to building a relationship and maybe asking questions along the way. Obviously, we have some great brands on here, some great service brands on the morning call, and we're going to do another great webinar on March 1st, which we want to keep all of you connected to. With all that said, I want to thank each of my hosts and my contributors today. All provided some great information to this webinar, and I hope everyone on the call found some of this information helpful and hopefully got those creative juices flowing so that you can decide what's the right path for you. So have a great weekend, and hope we connect with you guys on the March 1st webinar. Take care.